Hello, you lovely lot. How are we doing? It is Connor. It is One Leeds. We are back with another video. We've got your morning news. We'll have an evening news video as well, summarising the press conference, summarising your day's news as well. I hope you're all doing fantastically well. Just want to say a big shout out to my man Justin Thomas, one of the One Leeds loyalists. What I'll say, the One Leeds loyalist, that needs to be a Patreon tier, who's just had a baby this morning at 10:35. Shout out to you, mate. I hope he or she is happy and healthy, and I'm sure she will be, mate. So congratulations there, buddy. Another one to add to the Leeds United clan. I hope you're bringing her or him up with the right team. Good evening, Connor. Hiya, mate. Connor, Top Lad Clobber, MW, always in there, giving me that clothing reference. Thanks, mate. Yeah, Mike, not muted as well. Leeds United comps. That's a positive, isn't it? Hello, Connor. Morning from Spain. Hiya, Matt. Sergio's in the building. Hi, Sergio. Hope everybody's doing really, really well. Little girl Steve got 4 boys already. There you go, mate. You're getting a little football team yourself, aren't you? Morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing fantastically well. Alan's in the building. Good morning. Congrats, Justin. The community is thriving for you, mate. So, yeah, congratulations there. So, Connor, why are you on so early? What on earth are you doing, mate? The press conference is at 1:30. We want updates then. Don't worry, we will have updates for you guys on a YouTube short where I'll summarise the press conference in about 60 seconds, so you don't have to go through all that. You know, sometimes the press conferences can be arduous, they can be boring to listen to. You guys just want a little snippet. I know you do, because that's all I want, really. So I'm going to do a little bit of a video that's going to summarise everything in the press conference, so make sure you check that out. Last night on the Patreon, we had a Generation Leeds. People really, really enjoyed it last night. We're speaking about the Christmas congestion. We're speaking about the fixtures going forward, comparing Leeds and Leicester and their positives and the negatives and then Ipswich and all that sort of good stuff. So it's well worth getting involved with that, guys. As I've said, £4 a month, and it goes to the running of One Leeds Fan Channel. I'd like to say a massive thank you as well. Guys, the upturn in everything since I've been doing this has been mental. It's been absolutely mental, and it's all because of you guys. So I'd like to say a big, big thank you to everybody who's enjoying the content, everybody who's recommending me doing different things and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for that one. See you at Ewood. Morning, Connor from Barbados. Morning, Connor. How you, John, from down in Plymouth. Worth taking an early lunch break to catch a live. Chris Plum's in the building. Kyle's in as well. Hey, Kyle. So, yeah, let's get into your news anyway, but I just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody. So, Connor, what you on about with Marcelo Bielsa? Dan James has done an interview, and it's really, really nice to hear that Bielsa, who's absolutely smashing it at Uruguay, by the way, smashing it, seems to have implemented the fitness regime that he had at Leeds United already, seems to have got into Valverde, Darwin Núñez, Bentancur straight away, and they're performing at a really, really decent level. Obviously, they've had some massive wins so far. Argentina, probably the biggest one. But Simon Ricks of the Kaiser Chiefs went to Argentina to meet Bielsa, which is really cool to understand and to hear. And he said, funnily enough, Marcelo mentioned you the other day ahead of the Uruguay and Brazil game. Simon Ricks, who obviously the YP do the podcast with, and apparently Marcelo Bielsa turned around and said, how is Dan James doing? Now, Dan James has turned around afterwards and said, Bielsa's great. I know he tried to sign me back in January. Let's not go there. It didn't happen. And 2 years after it, he had a massive impact on my career. As soon as I signed, I really dialed in because he's a manager who's improved so many players in the in his career. Look at what Uruguay are already doing. It's not surprising to see. So I just and do you know what? I'm not doing it enough. Morning, Jamie from Oklahoma. Morning, Tashin from Melbourne. Good morning, mate. Evening, you should say. I should say. Hail to Leeds United. Hi, Elmi. But yeah, I want to talk on Dan James, and I want to speak about his impact, because do you know what I've not done on this channel? I've not given him flowers enough, and I've given everyone flowers but Dan James, and I feel it's come across from me in a bad way. I feel it comes across as if I'm Team Willy Gnonto, and there shouldn't be a Team Willy Gnonto or a Team Dan James, because they're in a team together, believe it or not. I think what Dan James is doing, and we had a bit of a disagreement last night on Generation Leeds, I think honestly what he's doing is absolutely superb. I don't think there's been a massive development in his game, but what I think is this consistency. He's got a belief about him and he's got a level of confidence now. Every goal is different, in my opinion. The little header that he got at the weekend was fantastic. And I'm looking at him now and I am thinking to myself, there's no way I would remove him from this starting 11. Now, you'll say, Connor, you're contradicting yourself. You're a hypocrite. I understand that. I still think Willie Gnonto is a better footballer, but there's no way you're taking Dan James out. There's no way, because then what does it mean? What are we measuring? What are we talking about? We're talking about a level of footballer, but then we're talking about form. And form right now comes above a level of footballer. Surely you've seen players in the past who've been brilliant footballers, but they've not been able to get in because the players who are in form and are working harder potentially are ahead of them. And that is what Dan James is doing now. And he's in the form of his life. Make no bones about it. At any point, Swansea, Leeds when he first came in, Fulham, Dan James right now is in the form of his life. There is no bones about it. There's no arguments about it. And I think it's great that he's doing the interviews. It's great that he's feeling confident about himself. And do you know what? I think it's also fantastic that Marcelo Bielsa, for Dan's confidence, has asked specifically about him. We're not even talking Liam Cooper. We're not talking Luke Ayling. We're not talking Pascal Strapp. We're not talking about the boys in the band, Patrick Bamford. We're talking about a guy who we failed to sign, and he was with Bielsa for nowhere near as long as the others. So isn't it interesting that Marcelo Bielsa earmarks Dan James as the one he's asking about? And quite right with Dan. Dan has turned around and said, you know what? Look at what he's done with that Uruguay team. And if you've not watched this Uruguay team so far and you're missing Marcelo Bielsa, never mind Newell's Old Boys, sit back, put a Uruguay highlight package on of the last 3 games they've played, and you'll actually get that nostalgic Leeds vibe, but it's with better players. So, yeah, we're going to get into a few more Dan James things as well, because he's had a conversation with Daniel Farke as well. I'm going to get into a few of your comments. You're allowed to change your mind. He's been brilliant this season. Lee, as you know on YouTube, mate, you're never allowed to change your mind. You're never allowed to change your mind. Saw lots of Leeds fans in Sydney yesterday, and one guy recognised you as the guy who posts in his car. Not done that in a while, mate, but you never know. With the rumour mill, when the rumour mill starts, when I'm getting news out to you guys consistently, there will be more car videos. Don't you worry about that. You look like you've got makeup on, Connor. Is that a positive, Craig? I'll take that. Does that mean my complexions looking good? Evie's in the building. Hiya, Evie. Morning all. I love Dan James, and I've been an advocate for him for years. This is the first time in years he's been played and coached in a natural position. Evening, Connor, from Eric in Western Australia. The biggest improvement, says Steve Brown, is his composure. Still has a lot to do, but he's ideally suited to the system. Jonesy says, James clearly has a brilliant work ethic and works his socks off. Not surprised. Can't argue over James, Connor. He's making great contributions week in, week out. And I'd agree. And let me just further that as well. Obviously, he was doing an interview with the I think it was Radio Leeds. And apparently had a summer conversation with Daniel Farke. I think I came back a little late for pre-season with having internationals, and he sat me down on the plan and just said how he felt and how he wants me here. Really interesting just there, just breaking that down, how he wants him here. Willie Gnonto, at the time, Sinisterra, Somerville, Pirot, Bamford, just littered with players, Gelhardt as well at the start of the season, because obviously he was featuring. Greenwood, who has been playing further forward, Matteo Joseph. So it's a massive, massive, massive indictment from Daniel Farke at the beginning of the season, sitting Dan James down at the start and saying, I want you here. You're asking me, what would I have done? Dan James, 15, 20 million in the bag? 100%. See you later, mate. And listen, I wouldn't let him go 15 or 20 million now, but I think he's a 15, 20 million pound player. Yeah, probably. But that is where the management is fantastic from Daniel Farke. Fantastic. Because what he's essentially done is said, I want you here, but you got to prove it. Because look who's in front of you. Yo, Perot, Jorginho, Rutter, who we've just forgot to mention as well. Crysencio, Somerville, Sinisterra. We forget about Sinisterra, who's in the mix at the start. So all of that. And now is a lot of people are forgetting his goal contributions as well. Like myself, I'll be honest. 6 goals and 4 assists. 10 goal contributions. And we're going to get into the top 4, but I think combined they've got about 41 goal contributions, or 38 or 41 goal contributions between them all. It's massive. And as Daniel Farke said at the start of the season, you need 75 goals plus to get promoted. We're well on the way to that. Hannah says he has a lot to offer, James, especially in this league. I'm so happy for him this season. He's really enjoying his football too. Amazing what a manager can do to your confidence. James is finally finding end product and something he was just poor at, just needed tweaking. Morning all. Hi, Jess. Hope you're all good. James is so quick with Somerville on the other side. Can James make it at the next level? Hopefully he can. Would make Scum look silly if he doesn't. And that's it. Yeah, for you guys, just nice little community we got in the chat this morning. Nice and positive, like it always is. But yeah, it's nice. It's lovely to see him having this resurgence. And I just wanted to come on and not really, you know, I don't want to be this guy who a lot of people think that I hate Dan James, you know, forcing this narrative. It is not true whatsoever. I don't hate Dan James. I do think ability-wise, we can have the conversation. Nonso is better, in my opinion, but you cannot take James out. And so there's no point really in talking about him being better than him. Doesn't matter. Another real positive that we've seen this morning on LeedsUnited.com. Manager recognised for impressive November. That manager is Daniel Farke. Obviously, he's been nominated for Manager of the Month. The boss has been recognised following an impressive run of results throughout the month of November. It began with a thoroughly impressive 1-0 win at tabletop in Leicester, probably the result of the season. A 2-1 win over Plymouth, a draw at Fulham, and a 3-1 success over Swansea. Obviously, that was in the month. Overall, a haul of 10 points saw the Whites end the month unbeaten and in fine form. Farke was up against Carlos Corberán, who obviously lost against Leicester City. Russell Martin, who's had a good period as well, but I think there's a draw in there against Huddersfield. And Jon Dahl Thomason, interesting, who Leeds are going to be coming up against Blackburn, who's going to be in the stands, obviously, Jon Dahl Thomason. And apparently tomorrow morning we will find out. So I think there's a mixed bag of results. I think it's probably going to be between Farke and Russell Martin for the prize. We all know the disappointment of this month has been Rotherham, which was a massive opportunity with Ipswich faltering at West Bromwich Albion. But the positive is, you know, you look at that run. Shout out to you, Super Joe. I hope you're all right. Hope you're all right, mate. But yeah, I think the result of the season Leeds have had this month as well so far, a thoroughly deserved win at Leicester City, which I think needs to be contextualised. It's not just about winning, it is about how you win, and it's about where you win as well. And I think Leeds' win at Leicester was a proper statement, and they've carried that on as well. Afternoon, Sam. How you, mate? Super Joe, yeah, just flag that comment as well. Morning, Connor. We're still a young team with plenty to go. Dave, I'm gonna touch on that, mate. Someone I follow on Twitter who's excellent, Laposa, followed him for a while now, sort of in the same bracket as Ethan from online. I definitely recommend you guys go and follow if you are on Twitter. But he's mentioned something that I did want to touch on this morning. Now, if Leeds want to survive in the Premier League, there are a lot of things to improve, put in place. And he's noted down physicality here, tempo on the ball, compact defending, set plays, mid-block, strong defenders across the back four, and a good goalkeeper. Now, I don't know what you guys think in the chat. I think he's pretty much bang on there. I think there is still, and it just follows Dave's comments there. I still think there's a lot that Leeds need to improve on in terms of us going forward and us having that level to compete in the Premier League. And we're saying compete, everyone. Compete, not just get relegated. Well, you know, and I think a lot of what he said there, good goalkeeper, you guys know, in my opinion, Ilan Mele should be shipped off as soon as we get to the Premier League. If we were to get to the Premier League, set plays, we obviously know that needs to improve. It's been slack again. The Middlesbrough game was very, very frustrating in terms of set pieces because it wasn't just the goal where they scored. There's a couple of free kicks in where there's men just not even being marked. That needs to improve. The tempo on the ball, I think that's a really interesting one because I think sometimes Leeds United, there's 2, 3, 4 extra touches on the ball before we get it moving. In the Premier League, you're just getting closed down, you're getting pressed, the ball's been taken off you by better players, and obviously physicality, because we know now in the Premier League, we'd all talk about Championship footballers, oh, you need to go down there and be physical, be You know, it's almost like Sunday League in terms of the Premier League. You've got the fancy Dan footballers. You come down to the Championship, and it's physicality. It's brute football. Well, now it's the opposite way. You've not only got footballers in the Premier League, but you've got athletes, and that is what you always need to improve on. It's not just having players who can play football, who are have that level of finesse, but it's having proper athletes, and that's what they are now in the Premier League. So I agree with what he's saying there. Strong defenders across the back four is an interesting one. I would probably agree with that in the sense of I don't think Byram would suffice in the Premier League. I think he'd struggle big time at left back. But also, I think across that back line, it'd be interesting to see if Leeds would have to evolve. We might be talking about Joe Rodon in the Premier League and Pascal Stroud, but would we need a top defender as well to be competing with those guys? I think people still rate Melee because of how bad the defence was last year, and his save percentage isn't enough. I agree with you, Bradley. The stats back it up, mate. Archie needs a break. Byram, left back. Spence, right back. Always like Dan James, says Kieran. Really feel that if Bielsa had gotten time with him, we'd have seen an exponential improvement with him. I agree, mate. Leeds 5 against Rovers. I feel Farke's system doesn't press enough. Will be interesting to see how this goes in the top level. What do you think, Leeds fan? I do think you bang on. I think that's the criticism I've got with Farke. It's just, and listen, there's no need to go into negatives as such. It's just constructive criticism and where we need to get back. But for me, there's a few bits that we need to get better at in game. And right now, we're talking about on Generation Leeds last night on the Patreon. It's actually starting games better because we're starting games way too sluggishly, as Borough and Swansea proved. So, what are we looking to learn from the press conference today? Well, the future, Junior Firpo in terms of his injury, and we're going to get onto his just a little bit of more transfer gossip around him in just a sec. Stuart Dallas, where's he? And Joe Gelhardt, obviously they were the only absentees against Middlesbrough last time out. So where are Leeds at when it comes to these three? When you're looking at them contextually, it doesn't really matter. Stuart Dallas, obviously, it doesn't matter if he's unavailable. Joe Gelhardt, it doesn't matter. He's not been in several squads now. And Junior Firpo, as long as Sam Byram's okay, no problem there. The good thing is you've got Spence back. Can you rotate maybe Archie to left back? You don't want to be doing that. Hence why we need a left back. If the worst case scenario happens, Sam Byram again getting injured, Archie to left back, Shackleton in there potentially. Right back comes Jed Spence. Spence needs to be used. I'm really excited to see him. And I just wonder how far we're going to go before we actually go and get a left back. It's going to be fascinating to see. But as I say, so Dean Jones, the journalist today, more and more seems to be coming from the journalist side of things. It's interesting now because it's the English side. We heard from Deportivo and Sport, obviously the European side, that Junior Firpo will be leaving Leeds in January. From his quotes, we are sort of getting the understanding that he'll be staying at Leeds. That he'll be staying at Leeds and we'll be going into the new year with Junior Firpo at Leeds United. I'm not going to go into the rumours too much, but that's his opinion. He feels that he will leave. But what we haven't spoken about as much is what will Leeds United think. Now, it's interesting from a PR perspective that they're putting him up for a podcast, and I get that because you're almost wanting the fans to get behind Junior Firpo and look behind the injury record and behind the bad form and actually get to know the individual. And Leeds fans did that, and it's brilliant PR. It's fantastic because they're like, oh, Junior's fantastic. He wouldn't leave Leeds like all the deserters would. He'd never leave. He loves Leeds. He's building a life for Leeds. We all want to hear that as fans. But what would you do if you were Leeds United? If you're Leeds United, is it better selling Junior Firpo now, in January? Or is it better selling Junior Firpo in the summer months? If Leeds are to sanction another left-back with still having Junior Firpo at the club, his stock's going to reduce because he's not going to get any minutes. That left-back, probably intertwined with Sam Byram, is going to get the most minutes at left-back. Hello, hello, hello. We're back. We're back. Are we good? Are we good? Are we good? Sack that mic off. I know. I know. Hello, hello. Are we all good? Are we all good? Oh, dear me. Thanks, Evie. Thank you. Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. I know. Wi-Fi, trust me, it's the streaming. It is the streaming. Yesterday it was the camera. Then on the evening it was the microphone. It's just, it's crazy. Ryan, but you're here every time, mate. You're here every time. And that's what I love about this, you know? Kilgallen, see you later, fella. Mike back on. Good stuff. Conspiracy, yeah. So what I was saying essentially with Firpo is it's designed. It's what does the club want? You know, the club can get a really good value for him. They can get a really really excellent value for him in January. Summarising what I said, what do the club do? You know, what on earth do the club do? We know what the journalists think and expect. You know, we've got our perceptions, but what do the club do when the stock's high? What the club needs to do, in my opinion, in January is get rid. That's what they need to do. That was summarising what I was pretty much saying there, everybody. But overall, I'm just interested to hear what you guys think on the matter. Do you believe that Junior Firpo should be sacked off? Sacked off is a bit harsh, but should he be leaving in January, or would you be letting him go in the summer? Interested to hear what you think. Would anyone actually buy him, Connor? Yeah, I think so, mate. I think I mentioned when I was mute on the European circuit, I think he'd fit a Spanish style. Again, it's the wing-back role, not a full-back. If he's a wing-back, he's going to struggle. Sorry, if he's a full-back, he's going to struggle. Wing-back, I think like a Betis. You know, he's been there before. I mentioned on yesterday's stream that maybe they won't come in for him, but maybe they'll just have that emotive reaction when it comes to Firpo. He was good here once, so maybe he can be good here again. You know, before he went to Barca, he was like one of the best wing backs in Europe in terms of numbers, believe that or not. But I do think that it's one of those that if we get rid of him in January, I think that could be really, really advantageous for Leeds because they're going to get a good stock value for him. If we go and get another left back, the left back comes in, he's rotating with Sam Byram. Where's Firpo's minutes? You then get to the summer months, and then what? You know, you can't sell him for a good value if he's not playing. You know, so Leeds have got to increase his minutes. Hi, Jan. Hope you're all good, mate. Hope you're all good. Sujal says, Firpo has never really lived up to promise, needs to be sold. Yeah, interesting, mate. Interesting. How much did we buy him for again? Yeah, we bought him for around about 15 million, I think, in and around that. He has to go in January, says Kyle, or his value will decrease by the summer. Yeah, 13 million it was. So I think I think that's my view on it. I think it's really nice what he said. I really respect what he said in terms of him wanting to be in and around Leeds, but I just don't know if it's the right move. So things that we need to look out for in the press conference. I think Daniel Farke is going to be asked about Sammy Schmodix, obviously the top scorer in the championship. Yes, it does sound like a made-up name. He's going to be very, very dangerous. We've mentioned earlier on that when it comes to the manager of the month, Yondal Thomason is obviously up for manager of the month, which gives really, really good validation to what Blackburn have been doing and what he's been doing ultimately. Leeds were rumoured with him as well before Daniel Farke, which is interesting. But yeah, Sammy Schmodix is a championship top scorer now. The latest on him, that's going to be fascinating. What does he believe? You know, it's 14 goals in 19 appearances, 7 in the last 5. So where they're strong, and we were speaking about this on Generation Leeds, is the counter-attack. It's the Blackburn counter-attack. So we're obviously very decent on the counter-attack, but Blackburn are also very decent on the counter-attack. So we've got to be very, very wary. Very, very wary. And Purdue and Kamara have to be extremely wary with what's potentially ahead of them. As I said, the injury latest. Gnonto, I wonder if he's going to be asked about that in the press conference. And, you know, Yo Pero's confidence. What was really evident the other day when Leeds scored, when Pero scored, was all the players going up and essentially pointing at him. You know, this is the guy, this is the guy. So he's been lacking in confidence, but it's 2 goals in 2 for him. And hopefully we can see that increased confidence, you know, keep going as an upward trajectory. But the one I'm fascinated to hear about is WILLY. So I really want to hear what Daniel Farke says in terms of what's his position now at Leeds? What is his position? Where is his position? Where do you see him going forward in this Leeds United setup? So, yeah, loads to consider, loads to, get from this press conference, guys. If you want a bonus podcast, head on over to the Patreon. We will be starting a new podcast over there as well as Generation Leeds. 2 new podcasts, actually, which as of next week will be, because of you guys requesting it, will be available on audio via Spotify and iTunes as well. As I say, all proceeds go to the running of the channel, which, believe it or not, is an expensive thing to keep running full time. So yeah, really appreciate you guys. There will be more videos coming out summarizing what's been going on in the press conference. I'll be on if there is any latest news. There will be a video later on as well discussing the evening content. We will have your preview live from the sofa, or potentially from Ewood Park. We'll wait and see, coming tomorrow as well. So guys, thank you once again. Absolutely. Sujal, you will hear my prediction, mate, on the preview. Or if you want an early prediction, you can see it on the Generation Leeds as well. But guys, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Apologies for the sound, but you know, this sometimes does happen on these live streams. It was only for 1:30. I've just had a check. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, everyone, and I will see you in a bit. Cheers.